Hi, this is my review of the Aventurian Bestiary for the 5th edition of the Dark Eye role-playing game. This book contains monsters and beasts that you can use in your Dark Eye campaigns. But it also contains a lot of information to create your own creatures, information to create the character that you want. That is, you're going to find advantages, disadvantages, and other things that you can use if you want to create a forester type of character, or perhaps a sort of like a ranger or a scout. There are many things here. You even have information if you want to have pets. You have a lot of beasts that serve as mount or as beasts of war. Now let's talk about the quality of the PDF. The quality is great. I just found like a couple of typos, but everything is well organized and written. The document is fully bookmarked. You have some very good looking illustrations. Some of them are quite beautiful, quite striking. I also like the graphic layout of the document. It looks like this was printed on some sort of dragon's hide or lizard hide of sorts. Now let's talk about the contents. First, you have a nice preface of what this document is all about. The creatures contained in this bestiary are handled in great detail. These beasts contain all of their motivations, their details on their environment, their behaviors. You also have information on their weak points. So these beasts can be outfought or outsmarted, or perhaps even befriended or negotiated with. It all enhances that sense of the Dark Eye of creating any character or even character party that you want, and you will be able to succeed at different encounters with these creatures thanks to all of the information contained in this bestiary. Then you have a description of the format that is going to be handled throughout the document. That is, with each beast or monster category, you're going to have details on its way of life and natural history, details on size and weight, attributes. The creatures are fully statted. You're going to have information on their combat behavior, special attacks, etc. You also have new combat special abilities. These special abilities will make it easier for you to understand how these creatures interact with the environment and with the player characters, but they also serve as tools to create your own beasts and monsters. So you have things such as attack weak spot, clutch, locked jaws, flying attack, pounce, trample, underwater combat, and such. Then you have the chapter 1, which is all about monsters. This chapter has to do with those creatures that seem so extraordinary and supernatural that they will represent some of the biggest challenges in the character's career. Some of these creatures are not native to the Aventuria plane of existence. They are summoned from elsewhere, such as demons. So you have many different creatures for your characters to fight against, or perhaps to come to terms or to carry out some sort of negotiation. First, we have the Basilisk. This is a classic of fantasy, and it's given the Aventurian treatment quite well. Basilisks, also known as Toadspawn or Vasa in Isdira, are serpent-like creatures that are many yards long and have a metallic crest on their head. These ruinous creatures are thought to be linked with the Nameless One, and even mere mention of their name spreads fear and terror. A basilisk's aura rots vegetation, covers soil with mildew, turns water into poisonous broth, and changes air into corrosive gas, killing every animal in the vicinity. You also have information on its distribution. So for example, there is a legend that says that the basilisk is born out of a chicken egg. It starts its life as a toad and then transforms into this terrifying creature. You have details on its natural history, special attacks such as deadly touch, a petrifying gaze, of course, death aura. You even have some information on the weak spot of the basilisk. Some intelligent, or what would you say, cunning characters could actually defeat this monster if they approach it carefully. Now we have other monsters such as the beast stinger, sorry. And these are quite different from the basilisks. Beast stingers are fairy creatures that have animal-like shapes. They often take form of small furry animals such as squirrels, mice, or otters. Many Aventurians know of playful or tricky talking animals from stories and myths, but not all talking fairy tale animals are beast stingers. So we have details on their distribution as well, way of life, but this is an example of these creatures that can be used to bring color to the world and not necessarily serve as powerful antagonists for the player characters. And you have special rules such as cute. You cannot attack them because they are so cute, you have to carry out a willpower check. So you have information on how to handle them in and outside of combat. You have other creatures such as this is really nasty, the Barbarad mosquito. And these mosquitoes basically feed on memories. I think that many player characters will be terrified of these creatures because they represent an obstacle in character development. They feed upon your energy and of course upon those points that you will be able to use to level up your character. And then you have some other things such as the bound souls. You have cyclops. You have dead squirrels. These are somewhat bizarre. A death or corpse squirrel resembles a small black squirrel with a single black horn on its brow. Many Aventurians think these misleading creatures are simply alcohol-fueled hallucinations until they actually encounter one. Death squirrels live about as long as other types of squirrels. Death squirrels are coveted not only for their fur but also for their horn. So these are basically squirrels that can launch themselves kind of like bullets, and they try to impale their prey. They aren't exactly violent, but they could serve for some interesting encounters where the characters are not exactly sure of what they are expecting of these furry creatures. And then you have demons, of course, such as the Difar. It is difficult to describe the shape of a Difar. This demon, also known as a restless shade, is a lesser servant of Lolgramoth. It is always in motion and moves extremely quickly, so that onlookers perceive them only as a blurred cloud. Summoners use Difarim mainly to deliver messages or act as spies, but many mages forget that they are also excellent fighters. Something that I really like of this bestiary is that with each entry you also have flavored text with the thoughts and opinions of different inhabitants of Aventuria, of what they think of these creatures. You also have other demons, such as, for example, the Karmanath. And it says, the Karmanath is a lesser but still very dangerous demon from the domain of Velshirash, the archdemon opposed to Firun. They manifest as hellhounds the size of calves. Their fur is white and frozen, and thus always looks smooth. And they have some pretty nasty properties to them. They attack in packs and they become quite frenzied. They have terrible howling as well. You also have some other things such as, this one is also pretty nightmarish. This is the Laran. This is basically a demon that can change its shape to seduce others. Laranim, also called spoilers of flesh and mind, bloody seducers or masters of the lewd spawn, are five-horned and extremely powerful demons from the domain of Belkelel. Laranim are very skilled at manipulating victims and slowly driving them to madness. Most Aventurians have never heard of Laranim, but in Arania there is deeper knowledge about the true nature of the demon based on the painful experiences of recent times. There's also this really nasty demon, the Shroof. Shroof is a four-horned combat demon from the domain of Belharhar. Its manifested shape resembles an upright bird-like creature with bird legs and sharp beak. Now, the nasty things about these creatures is that they can produce tentacles to capture adventurers, and as you can see, they're quite big. They do have some susceptibility to blessed objects, but they are still a force to be reckoned with. Many of the most powerful monsters in this bestiary could be quite impossible to defeat in combat for the starting out adventurer, reflecting the grittiness of the Dark Eye despite its emphasis on storytelling. You have another nasty demon that is the Sand, which is basically a demon that specializes in combat. You have some other things, many different dragons. You have cave dragons. You also have giant wyverns. And then you have glacier worms. You also have pit worms. And you also have this dragon that appeared in one of the recently released Dark Eye adventures, the Tree Dragon. And then you also have some other classic undead monsters such as the Ghoul. Now, something that I found particularly nasty of the Ghoul is that it breaks stereotypes in fantasy. Instead of just like paralyzing you with its attack, it has a special ghoul poison, and once the ghoul infects you with that, you'll start to become into a ghoul slowly. So that's really nasty. It's one of those undead creatures that you do not want to fight up close and personal. You have other things such as giant stag beetles. And you also have griffins. And then you have the Grolm. Grolms are a humanoid species that resemble 6-year-old human children. Their heads appear much too large for their shoulders, and their faces are so wrinkled from birth that they appear to be very old. These are some of the more, what would you say, amicable creatures in this bestiary, and it's possible to carry out some sort of exchange or negotiations with them. It depends on what you are looking for. You have some other things like the Echanaria butterfly. And you have kobolds. In this game you can actually find some friendly kobolds as well, but they come in different varieties and they have different behaviors. And they also have the special rule of immediate magical regeneration. Kobolds can absorb magic from their surroundings and do so automatically when casting spells. You also have some other things like the Krakonians. You have Manticores. You have Maru, which are basically crocodile men. And then you have different varieties of minor spirits, quite elemental in their nature. You have the Morphu. You have mummies, nymphs. You also have saber-toothed tigers. There are some creatures in this bestiary that feel quite prehistoric, but they are actually somewhat common to find in Aventuria if you know where to look for them. You also have some classic ones such as skeletons. Skeletons are, in addition to zombies and mummies, one of the classic types of undead. They are basically the magically animated remains of long dead persons, held together not with muscle and sinew but with the darkest magic. In recent years, Midden Realmers have been confronted with armies composed entirely of undead. Unlike zombies, skeletons are agile enough to employ weapons and shields. And you have different special rules for them as well. Some of them you are already used or you're already knowledgeable about them, such as skeletons being impervious to daggers and susceptible to impact weapons. But there could be some skeletons that are extremely sensitive to sunlight. So you could use that to your advantage when fighting them. And there are some others that are quite effective at fighting in packs. So if you fight a group of those skeletons, it's better to change your tactics. You have some other things such as snow lurkers, swamp ricks. You have white harriers. These monsters, which possess 2 wolf heads and up to 8 legs, are not only nightmarish creatures from the darkest fever realms of the Nether Hells, but also horrific parodies of the Toverian heraldic animal, the 2-headed wolf Isengrim from the retinue of Irun. Now, these creatures are even domesticated by some nobles, so there's a possibility to have one of these things as a pet, but they don't seem too friendly to me. And they have special rules, such as, for example, they are ravenous, they attack it in wild packs. And then we have some other things like the wolf lizards. We also have zombies, of course. I really like this zombie illustration. It looks quite original when compared to more other standard depictions of zombies. They also have special rules to customize a zombie for a particular curse or haunted situation. For example, they could be disease carriers. They could be extremely sensitive to sunlight, just like the skeletons. They also have pack rules and different zombie types. And then we have the chapter on animals. Animals in this bestiary are those that feel more natural, more native to the plane of Aventuria. However, they are still quite formidable in combat, so it will be foolish to underestimate them. So you have creatures such as alligators, with their special attacks like dragging prey underwater. You also have badgers, of course, bird spiders, Vravacuda. You also have some animals that serve as mounts, such as camels. And then you have crowned stags. You have donkeys. You have some more unusual animals, such as, for example, the horned saurian. You also have some other things like jaguars, gum vultures. You have mammoths. And there's a really cool beast that you could use as a pet. If you manage to get your hand on it, it's going to be awesome. And it's, let me see if I can find it. It's a war dog, if I'm not mistaken, or warhound. You have red foxes, royal eagles. You also have striped sharks. There are also skunks, which will surely represent an obstacle if you are on your way to a diplomatic meeting. You have swamp leeches. And here we are, the war dog. It looks really awesome and terrifying, but it will surely make for a great pet if you have like a warrior type of character. You also have yellow-tailed scorpions. And then at the end of the book, you have an appendix detailing many new things, rules and thematic-wise. You have new advantages such as Basilisk Slayer, Dragon Slayer, Fairy Friend, Hatred for, and you can choose a specific type of creature that you hate. You also have the Iron Stomach advantage, and this is useful because not all of the creatures that you hunt are edible, and with this you can take nourishment from them. You also have some disadvantages such as Smell of the Prey, Smell of the Predator. You also have new states such as Frenzied, Horrible Smell, Misfortune, Petrified, and you have all of the details on how to make use of your query. If you have a hunter type of character, here you have all the information, how to skin an animal, how to draw meat from it and feed yourself from your prey, extracting poison, milking that poison, and perhaps selling it. You could make a living. Your character could make perhaps a shop, or he could specialize in selling poisons. You also have information how to get animal trophies for when your character gets attacked by some horrible beast and you manage to kill it, and you could brag about how you did it, and you had the fangs and perhaps the head or tusks. You have additional rules, for example, strength ratings for tiny creatures. You have rules on how to handle swarms, diseases, new general rules for creature types, many different rules concerning chimeras, daemonids, ghosts, undead, and so forth. Now let me tell you what I think of this Aventurian Bestiary. I think this is a must-have for the Dark Eye Game Masters. It's effectively a companion volume to the core book because it contains all sorts of monsters and creatures that you can use, but it also contains many new things and many new rules to create your own creatures. You also have all of those advantages and disadvantages and rules on skinning and milking poison and preparing meat that will be quite useful if you want to create sort of like a ranger type of character or scout or a barbarian. So definitely get the Dark-Eye Aventurian Bestiary. It will enhance your game not only by presenting new antagonists and perhaps even allies. As I was telling you, all of these creatures have well-defined behaviors, habits, and weaknesses. You can overcome them or outsmart them through battle, through your wits. You could negotiate with them, you could befriend them, but also all of those tools that you can use to better flesh out that character concept that you want to have in your Dark-Eye game. Definitely get this bestiary. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.